Tina cooks more Italian.
This is made possible through the generous support of KC's Body Connections Massage Center, connecting body, mind, and spirit. G's Hot Dog Cafe, home of the Chicago Dog. Enterprise Bank, we help create opportunities for your business. Papa John's Pizza, Leominster, Fitchburg, Marlborough, and Worcester. Today, we're going to make cranberry and pistachio with orange biscotti. We're going to take peppers, mushrooms, onions, and turkey sausage and make a wonderful sauté. Stay tuned. Now today I'm going to start with a different variation of biscottis. I've made biscottis before, but these are made with cranberries, pistachios, and orange. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to put it in the microwave for about a minute because I want it to melt. It's a half a cup of butter. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eggs, which is, the recipe calls for 2 large eggs, but these eggs are like, they're supposed to be large, but they're like pigeon eggs, and I don't want to use just 2, so I'm going to throw in an extra egg. It really won't bother anything, and at least we'll have a decent amount of eggs in here. So if you end up getting pigeon eggs, use 3. Okay. Now I'm going to take my little handy-dandy whisk, because you got to whisk these a little bit so that they get a light yellowy color. Okay, now here I have 3/4 cup of sugar, which I'm going to mix in here real good. And you want to mix these for a while. Now when I make biscottis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my towel and I'm going to put it under this bowl because this bowl is making a racket. All right. I just want to lighten up my eggs a little bit. So usually if you use a hand mixer, you're going to mix them about 2-3 minutes. Okay. So now we have our sugar and our eggs. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check on our butter because that has to go in next. Okay. Now this is a little bit hot, so I'm going to let this cool down a little bit before I mix it, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some honey. It's about 1 tablespoon of honey, okay, which I'm just going to squirt in about 1 tablespoon, okay? And then I'm going to add some zested orange. Now the recipe calls for about, let me look, 1.5 teaspoons of orange. I'm just going to keep grating around this around the orange. I don't want to take any of that pith in there, the white pith. I'm just barely skimming the top of it because I just want the orange zest. This gives the cookie a really good flavor. Now you can use almond extract. You can use vanilla extract, but I'm going to use an orange extract. I'm just going to stick to the flavor here. I don't like a lot of different variations of, a lot of people use almond. I'm not an almond person. All right, so I'm just going to scrape a little more of this on here. Okay. That's about 1.5 teaspoons, I would say. There you go. Put this back over here. We're going to mix this in with the honey and the orange. You can already smell the orange. It smells fabulous. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons. This is an orange extract. I love making cookies with an orange extract. I love orange. I love orange and I love lemon. Oh, there we go. I'm going to mix that in real good. Now we'll see how this butter is coming because I don't want to scramble our eggs. It's not that cool yet, so we'll give it another minute. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to slowly drizzle it in because we don't want to cook our eggs as the butter's a little bit warm. Okay, now you're gonna notice the eggs are nice and thick, and they're very, very nice color. Okay. Now the next thing I have to do is I have to add my dry ingredients, which is going to be 2 cups of flour. Now you're asking me, Tina, how are you remembering all this? I have my recipe right here with the numbers on it to know how to mix it. All right, 2 cups of flour. We already added our sugar. We need a half a teaspoon of salt. I use that for my oranges, okay? And now we need a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, okay? Okay, I've got my flour, my powder, my salt, my eggs, my sugar, my butter, my orange rind, my extract, and my honey. And I'm gonna take my hand and I'm gonna mix this in like this. This cookie mix is a little bit moist. Now this is a biscotti because of that extra egg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a half a cup more flour. So I'm going to use 2.5 cups of flour with that extra egg. And that's going to pull this together. There we go. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to take my pecans and my cranberries, and I'm going to throw those in here, and I'm going to mix them in nice and easy like this. I had a half a cup of dried cranberries chopped and a cup of pistachio nuts chopped. Not chopped fine, just rough chopped, so that you can see that there's big pieces of pistachios and big pieces of cranberries. All right, let me move this out of the way. I'm going to flour my hands a little bit and flour the table a little bit. And I'm going to take my scraper and I'm going to try to get half of this out at a time. Okay, like this. That's about like half, maybe a little more. The logs don't have to be perfect. I mean, technically you can weigh them if you want to, but I think that's a little bit too far. And we're going to press these out like this. When I cook biscottis, I like them to be on wax paper. Don't ask me why. My grandmother always did it that way. My nonna always put her biscottis on wax paper. So I think it's just a thing that I've always learned from her. So that's what I do. Okay, now you can make these as wide or as long as you like. I don't like them too wide because then when you cut them, they get, they're really, really big biscottis, and you don't need them that big. Okay. Now we're going to just try to pick this up without doing too much damage. Lay it back down, and then just shape it up again. That's what I do. This is a little wider down this end, but and there we go. That's number 1. Now we'll do number 2. Okay. I'm going to put a little more flour down because, like I said, this dough is soft. Now these cookies are going to bake on a 300-degree oven, and they're going to go about 25 minutes. They got to be nice and, golden brown, and they kind of dry out because it's a nice low heat that they bake on, and they bake for a long time, so it kind of dries them out a little bit. Okay, so we're going to move this one. I'm doing mine on a convection bake. For those who have a convection oven, you want to bake them on 275 for the same amount of time, about 25 minutes. So these are ready to go in the oven. Oops, that's all right, I'll get that later. Okay, now this is going to be the first bake. We're going to put them on a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes, and then we're going to put them in a rack and let them cool. The next thing I'm going to do is sausage with peppers, mushrooms, onions, and pasta. It's going to be a great pasta toss for a quick supper. Stay tuned. All right, so the first thing I'm going to start out with is getting my vegetables ready. I'm going to do a turkey sausage with mushrooms, peppers, and onions. A little white wine. It's going to be delicious. Now I'm going to use a thin pasta. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a few pieces of each. Oops. I did wash these, but I left the sticker on that one, so put that one on that cutting board. So I'm going to cut a piece of each color pepper. Some of them aren't cutting as nice, but that's okay. My knife must need to be sharpened. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the peppers and I'm going to slice them thin because I've got a thin spaghetti, so I don't want a thick pepper or a big chunk of pepper. I like everything to kind of be uniformed in size. I'm using a red, I'm using a yellow, and I'm using an orange because I want to get the color. I want a nice pretty color with this turkey sausage. Turkey sausage is a low calorie, it's a light way to eat sausage if you want to watch your fats. And when you cook it like this with all these peppers and onions and mushrooms, it really is, it's really good. And it's quick because once you get your onions cut, it's a quick meal for supper. I'm going to do the same thing with these. I'm going to slice them kind of thin. Just going to use a little more. Okay. And then I'm going to do my mushrooms. These are small portobellos or creminis. You can use the white buttons, whatever mushroom you like to use. You could use a variation of mushrooms too. You can use a couple of different kinds if you like. Now I want a nice chunk of garlic, and I'm going to mash this fine. That's a big chunk of garlic, man. You need it for the turkey's very boring. Actually, the turkey sausages are good, but they need a little extra spice, for me anyways. Because when you're used to eating regular sausage and, you know, the regular, you need to really flavor it up so that it tastes like something. Okay, now we have our vegetables all cut up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the stove and we're going to start this meal up. Okay, we're going to do our sausage, peppers, onions, and mushrooms. We're going to start out with a little bit of olive oil, okay? Now I did put this pan on, so it is a little bit hot. I'm going to just add the garlic right here so that I can season this oil a little bit. And it's going to help with the sausage too. Now this is your turkey sausage. This is what it looks like. Comes in a casing. It's a little. I'm going to take it out of the casing though, and these casings are a little bit. They're not a conventional casing, I don't think. They're a little mushy. But this is going to be good. This is going to be, and it's nice and light. You can make it real quick for a supper one night, or. We're just going to start by breaking up our sausage a little bit. That garlic is really going to infuse into this turkey sausage. And where it's turkey sausage, it doesn't have all the fat and calories of the regular sausage. Add a little bit of salt. I'm going to add some parsley. I'm going to add a little bit of granulated garlic and a little bit of pepper. There we go. Now I'm going to let this turkey sausage cook up a little bit before we start adding in our vegetables. bit of fennel in there too, which is going to give that a nice flavor also. I've tried using the turkey. I made meat sauce with the turkey, ground turkey. I've done meatloaf, and we can use it if you flavor it good enough. Oh, it's just as good as meat, it really is. But you got to remember that it needs to be flavored. It needs to be flavored a lot. All right, now this is going pretty good. Okay, now we're going to add our peppers and onions. All these pretty colors. Just like this. Oh yeah. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to drizzle a little more olive oil on the top of these because the mushrooms are like a sponge and they're going to absorb all the oil and stuff. So I also want to season again because now I'm adding in my vegetables. And I very lightly season each layer so that each layer has its flavor. Alrighty. A little bit more parsley. And a tiny bit more salt, not a lot. I'm going to add a little bit of basil to this, just a little bit, because I want to have a little bit of a different flavor than just the parsley. I'm going to toss this around. Oh yeah, it's already looking good. Now these vegetables are going to take a few minutes, like maybe 5-6 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them get a little bit mixed in here. Oh yeah, smells good already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white wine. This is a Chardonnay. And I'm going to put about a good half a cup or so in there because I want that to help the vegetables steam. Okay, and we're going to mix that around. Okay. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take a cover and I'm going to put it in a jar, just a little bit like that. And I am going to put these up to a good, almost high, medium high, so that they cook and they simmer in that wine. We're going to check these cookies one more time. I'm going to actually take them out and see. See, they're still a little pale for me. We want them a little bit golden brown. So we're going to let those go another 5 minutes or so. And we'll be back. Okay, now to finish up this dish, I'm going to use a little bit of Romano. And I'm going to throw in some little cubes. Now this is skim mozzarella. It's or you could use fresh mozzarella. This is a different, it's a skim one. It's in the deli aisle. I'm just going to cube it into small pieces like that. So now the cheese is ready. Now the cookies have gone a good 30 minutes, 35 minutes, because I wanted them to be a little bit on the colored side there. See, they got a little bit of color to them, not a ton, but a little bit. Now those are going to have to cool down before we can cut them. If you cut them too hot, they're going to break apart. This one looks a little crazy, but that's okay. When you see them cut, they come out good. Now we're going to take this cover off this wonderful peppers and turkey sausage. Let's see what we got going here. See how far they are. These are just about perfect. Alrighty, so I'm going to let this simmer like this. There's not that much juice in there. Sometimes when you cook peppers, there's a lot of juice in there. And if you find that there's more than that, more than if it's higher, you're going to want to boil it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push up my pasta water. And I have a nice thin spaghetti. You can use a thin linguine. You can use a shape too if you want. But I decided to use thin spaghetti. I'm going to take about half the box. Okay. I'm not going to make the whole pound. Oops. Open my cover up here. And I'm going to snap these in half. And drop them right in the water like that. Cover them up. Now those won't take long. They'll take about 5 minutes. 3 minutes. These are almost ready. You can see the peppers are they're not mushy. They're just about ready to break. They're tender, but they're not, the skin's not coming off the back, and they got a little bit of a crunch left to them. You want that. You want a little tiny bit of a crunch left. I'm just checking that. Okay, so we're just going to wait for our pasta, and I'm going to put this down just a little bit. Now when the pasta comes back to the boil and it's done, we're going to toss it in with the cheeses, and then it's going to be wonderful. So we're going to give our pasta a few minutes. Okay. These are just slightly warm. They're not hot. They are slightly warm. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cookies. I've done this at least 2 other times when I did the almond cookies and the cookies with the dates and the other stuff. I'm going to cut them on an angle, and you just pull it through like this. Now there's nuts in there, so you got to make sure that you cut through your nuts. That happens sometimes. What are you going to do? Like I'm not cutting through my nuts right. Okay, we're just going to keep going on an angle. You want little fingers. And I go right down to the end and save that little coolie part. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this other one off, and I'm going to take this wax paper, and I'm going to turn it around. And then I'm going to take my cookies. Now these are full of pistachios and cranberries. Oh, they look delicious, don't they? We're going to twice bake these. I'm going to put these in an oven at 350 degrees regular, and I'm convection baking, so they're going to be at 325, and we're going to let them go about 15 minutes till they're nice and golden brown. If you want, you can turn them halfway. I've done that before, but they should brown on the bottom and the top. Okay, just like this. Put these little coolie ones up here like this so that they cook too, because I like to dunk those in my coffee. Okay, now I'm going to do the other loaf. I am using a serrated knife, a bread saw. Oh yeah, I had to taste that little coolie. All you gotta taste, make sure your cookies are good. You don't want to give out bad cookies. That just wouldn't be right. I'm making these for my nephew's wedding. He's getting married, and I'm doing the Italian cookie tray, which is always an honor for an aunt to be able to make their nephews or my daughters. I made my daughter's wedding cookies. It's always an honor for me to have a nice big tray of Italian cookies with the confetti. My grandmother used to call them confetti, but what they're called today is Jordan almonds. It's not an Italian wedding without that. And yes, I am going to bake off all these broken pieces too, because they're great in coffee. Okay, so we're going to pop these in the oven, and we're going to let them go a good 15 minutes, and we'll be back to finish them up. Okay. All right, this pasta's ready. You don't want it cooked all the way. You want it al dente, you know. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this pasta water, and we're going to dump it into this dish. Let me move this out of the way. I'm going to take a ladle, because there's not a lot of water in there, and I'm going to take a scoop of pasta water, like that. Not a lot. And we're going to toss this around like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Romano cheese, I'd say about a half cup or so. And then about a cup of chopped mozzarella, just like that. And then we're going to just mix this, toss it around. Make sure it's nice and moist. If you need a little more pasta water, throw a little more in. Because what you're doing is you're cooking. When you finish up a pasta like this in the pan with the pasta water, and you stir it through, what you're doing is you're finishing up the pasta. The pasta is finishing up cooking, and it's absorbing all the flavors of the sausage and the peppers and the onions and the mushrooms, and the cheese is melting in it. We're just gonna let that go one more second. Let that go, yeah. And then we're gonna plate her up. Okay. I have my plate right here. Get out our mushrooms. We don't want to leave anything behind because this is going to be fabulous. I was going to say magtabulous, but that's not a word. And there you go. Turkey sausage with peppers, onions, and mushrooms. Mm-mm. All right. Now I've got this is a semi-sweet chocolate that I melted. It's nice and melty, nice and hot. Now, the thing that's going to top these cookies off is going to be this dark chocolate. I'm just going to stick the bottom in them, not the top, just the bottom, just to give it a little bit of a dark chocolate edge. They're going to be great. You don't have to dunk them all if you don't want to, but I think this kind of adds just a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of, that bittersweet. You're just going to let them dry, and this is going to make the cookie like 20 times better. You can use white chocolate, you can use milk chocolate, you can use whatever you want to use for chocolate. I chose a dark because I had it. So keep dipping. Now, after these have dried and the chocolate has gotten hard, you can turn them the other way, and that bite of chocolate is a little pleasant surprise. This is our cranberry, pistachio, orange biscotti. Give them a shot. Okay, now I sprinkled a little more Romano cheese on the top just to give it a little bit of character here, but I am definitely going to taste this right here. I need a little bit of turkey, so this is very hot. Taste the white wine, turkey sausage is great. Gotta try this dish, it's wonderful. Thank you for watching Tina Cooks More Italian. Have a good night. I gotta try this some more times, it's delicious. All right, cheese not great?